Welcome to our channel where we uncover the hidden treasures in the world of coins, and today we are diving deep into one of the most fascinating, mysterious, and unbelievable stories in the history of US currency, the 1977 1-cent coin that has stunned collectors, shocked historians, and turned ordinary pocket change into a multi-million-dollar artifact. A coin that has been reported to be worth as much as $5 million because of the strange errors, the unexpected mistakes, the production anomalies, and the fascinating possibilities that surround it. So sit back and prepare to be amazed as we explore every angle of why this tiny copper piece has captured so much attention, why errors can completely change the fate of an ordinary penny, and how something you could have ignored in your wallet might be the very key to life-changing money. Because the story of the 1977 penny is not just about metal and minting, it is about rarity, mystery, and the extraordinary quirks of history that create value beyond imagination. And to understand why this coin has earned its place among the most valuable collectibles, we must first appreciate the context in which it was minted. The U.S. Mint in Denver in 1977 was producing billions of pennies, designed with the familiar Lincoln portrait on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse. But even in such a mass production environment, machines can falter, dies can wear, blanks can be misfed, and the tiniest slip in alignment can transform an otherwise ordinary coin into something astonishingly rare. So the 1977 penny became legendary because of a series of mistakes that slipped past quality control and entered circulation, leaving behind a mystery for collectors to chase. Some coins from this year and mint mark have been discovered with double strikes, where the coin is struck twice by the die, leaving overlapping images of Lincoln's face or distorted lettering, a phenomenon that excites collectors because the accident is visible to the naked eye and instantly distinguishes the coin from millions of ordinary cents. Other examples include off-center strikes, where the coin blank was not perfectly aligned in the press and therefore part of the design is missing, leaving dramatic crescent shapes of blank space on the surface. These off-center strikes can range from minor to extreme, and the more dramatic the error, the higher the value, particularly when the date and mint mark remain visible, and still. Other 1977 pennies are known with clipped planchets, where a portion of the metal blank is literally missing, cut off before striking, resulting in a crescent-shaped clip on the edge of the coin that makes it instantly recognizable as a mint error. Such clips can vary in size and shape, and collectors prize them highly, especially when paired with strong details on the rest of the coin. But perhaps the most fascinating error tied to the 1977 penny lies in the possibility of transitional errors, coins accidentally struck on planchets meant for another year or denomination. While extremely rare, there have been rumors and reports of 1977 cents struck on leftover bronze planchets, leftover foreign coin planchets, or even dimes blanks, which means the coin not only shows the wrong weight and composition but also carries a bizarre uniqueness that makes it one of a kind. And this is where the story turns from curious to legendary, because while any error can elevate the value of a coin, the extreme rarity and uniqueness of certain mistakes, particularly those that survive in good condition, can catapult the value into the millions. And this is why the 1977 penny has become a holy grail in the eyes of collectors, because it embodies the perfect storm of circumstances. A widely circulated coin from an ordinary year that by pure accident produced a handful of extraordinary survivors, coins that collectors are willing to pay any price for. Now imagine the thrill of finding such a coin in an old jar of change, tucked away in a drawer, or sitting forgotten in a collection passed down from relatives. The possibility of turning a single cent into $5 million is not just exciting, it is life-changing, and what makes it even more thrilling is that these coins often escape notice for decades, waiting for the right collector to recognize their errors, their rarity, and their potential value. Some examples of 1977 pennies have been discovered with die cracks, visible lines across the coin's surface caused by a damaged die, which while minor on many coins, can in some cases create dramatic raised lines or breaks that collectors find visually stunning. Others show cuts, where a piece of the die broke away entirely and left a blank blob of metal on the struck coin. Each of these errors tells the story of a minting process under stress, of machines pushed to their limits, and of human oversight that let these anomalies slip into circulation, and together they weave a tapestry of rarity that sets the 1977 penny apart. But why $5 million, you may wonder? How could such a small coin command such a huge value? The answer lies in the nature of coin collecting itself, where rarity, demand, condition, and story all intersect to create astronomical value. When a coin is not only rare but also carries with it a legendary reputation. When it becomes the subject of rumors and excitement, when wealthy collectors compete for ownership, the value climbs higher and higher. And with era coins, each example is unique. No two are exactly the same, meaning that owning one is like owning a piece of history that no one else can replicate. And for the 1977 penny, this uniqueness combined with its rarity has fueled bidding wars, private sales, and headlines that capture the imagination of the public, further driving up its mystique and its price. And beyond the mechanics of era collecting, there is also the sheer cultural fascination with the idea that something so small and seemingly insignificant could hold such power, that a coin designed to be worth 1 cent could in the right circumstances transform into a multi-million-dollar treasure. That kind of story resonates with people because it embodies luck, chance, and the possibility that fortune is hiding in plain sight. So as collectors examine 1977 pennies, they look for telltale signs. Doubled lettering in Liberty or the date, distorted images in Lincoln's bust, partial missing edges, odd weights, unusual coloration, or metal composition, anything that hints at the extraordinary, because any of these signs could mean the difference between an ordinary penny and one worth millions. And this is what makes the hunt so thrilling, that the discovery might happen at any moment, that anyone could stumble across a coin of unimaginable value. The sheer unpredictability of it fuels not only collectors but also ordinary people to start checking their change, and this is why videos like this one matter, because they spread awareness, they remind viewers that treasure is out there, and they inspire curiosity to look more closely at the everyday things we take for granted. And in telling the story of the 1977 penny, we are not just sharing facts about errors and minting processes, we are sharing a reminder that history, luck, and value sometimes come together in unexpected ways. So whether it is a double strike, an off-center alignment, a clipped planchet, a transitional error, or a mysterious anomaly that has yet to be fully explained, the 1977 penny remains one of the most compelling and valuable coins in U.S. history, a tiny copper disc that became a legend, a simple 1-cent coin that might as well be a winning lottery ticket, and for those who dream of finding one, the journey of discovery continues. Because even though only a handful may exist, the possibility that the next one is sitting right under your nose is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting adventures in the world. Next, 1979 No Mint Mark USA coin explore the extraordinary stories hidden inside the smallest treasures of everyday life. And today we are diving deep into yet another unbelievable tale in the world of coin collecting. A story that revolves around a seemingly ordinary coin that you may have overlooked countless times without knowing its hidden potential. The 1979 No Mint Mark USA 1-cent coin, a coin that at first glance looks like any other Lincoln penny in circulation, but because of its mysterious errors, rare variations, and minting mistakes, it has been valued at a jaw-dropping $6 million, making it one of the most astonishing finds in the history of American coinage. And as always, we are here to welcome you with excitement and curiosity. Because who knows, maybe after watching this you will be inspired to look a little closer at the pennies hiding in your jars, piggy banks, or wallets. And perhaps you too could stumble across a life-changing discovery, so let's embark on this long journey into the fascinating world of the 1979 No Mint Mark penny and uncover why collectors, historians, and enthusiasts are willing to pay astronomical prices for this tiny piece of copper. Starting with the basics, the year 1979 was not one that coin collectors typically associate with radical changes, but in fact it was a period of transition for the U.S. Mint. And during this time billions of Lincoln cents were struck at various mints including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. Now here is where it gets interesting. Coins minted in Philadelphia during 1979 usually carried no mint mark, meaning they looked plain, but while most of those were just regular coins worth 1 cent, a handful of strange survivors from that year turned out to be incredibly valuable, not because of their design alone but because of the anomalies they carry. The unique minting errors that slipped past inspectors and made their way into circulation. Imagine the production floor of the Philadelphia Mint in 1979, massive presses striking thousands of coins per hour, dies wearing down from repeated use, planchets being fed in by machines that had to maintain perfect timing, and amidst all this mechanical chaos, it only takes the smallest error, the tiniest misalignment, or the wrong metal blank fed into the press to produce something unique, something that escapes the ordinary and becomes a treasure. And that is exactly what happened with the 1979 no-mint mark penny. Now let's talk about the kinds of mistakes that can make a coin worth millions. One of the most significant is a double die error, where the die used to strike the coin was misaligned during its preparation, creating doubling in the lettering or numbers. And in 1979 some no-mint mark pennies have been found with noticeable doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the iconic phrase "I in God we trust." These doubled features are visible even to the naked eye and instantly turn the coin into a coveted prize. Because they were produced in tiny numbers and are virtually impossible to find today. Another possible error is the off-center strike, where the coin blank was not properly seated in the machine when struck, producing a design that is shifted away from the center, leaving blank crescent-shaped spaces on the surface. And when such off-center errors retain the full date, and no mint mark visible, their rarity increases exponentially, making them worth huge sums. And then there are die cracks and cuds, the signs of overworked minting equipment, where the steel dies literally fractured or broke during production, leaving raised lines, blobs, or missing sections on the coin's design, which for collectors serve as proof of uniqueness and add to the dramatic appearance of the coin. Some examples of 1979 no-mint mark pennies even displayed broad strikes, where the collar that normally keeps the coin's edge contained failed, allowing the design to spread wider than normal, giving the coin a distorted and fascinating look. And then comes the holy grail of minting errors, transitional or off-metal strikes, situations where a coin is struck on the wrong type of blank. For instance, there are reports of 1979 pennies struck on dime planchets or foreign coin planchets, meaning the coin is lighter, thinner, and smaller than a normal cent, yet carries the date and design of a Lincoln cent. Such coins are virtually unique, and when authenticated, they fetch prices in the millions because their rarity makes them irreplaceable. And now you may be asking, why exactly $6 million? How can a coin that was supposed to be worth 1 cent escalate to such a mind-blowing figure? The truth is that value in the world of coin collecting is not just about the intrinsic material of the coin, which is often just copper or zinc, but about a combination of factors: rarity, demand, condition, and above all, the story behind the coin. The 1979 no-mint mark penny has all of these, because it is part of a year that marked the end of an era for Lincoln cents, just before the composition changed in the early 1980s from mostly copper to a zinc core, and coins from the late 1970s therefore carry historical weight, especially when combined with errors that make them nearly one of a kind. And when such coins surface at auction, wealthy collectors compete fiercely to own them, driving the price into the millions. Imagine the auction room, the tension rising as bids climb higher and higher, the gavel finally slamming down at $6 million, cementing the legend of this penny and forever placing it among the most valuable coins in existence. But beyond the auctions and the headlines, what makes this story truly incredible is the possibility that anyone could own one without even knowing, because these coins were struck and released into circulation, meaning they could be hiding in jars of old coins, tucked into albums, or sitting unnoticed in bank rolls, waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot the error. And this is where the thrill of coin collecting comes alive, the hunt, the chase, the knowledge that with patience and curiosity you could stumble upon a fortune, all hidden in something as small as a penny. And let us not forget the cultural power of such a story, that something designed to be worth 1 cent, something billions of people have passed through their hands without care, could in rare cases transform into a $6 million treasure. It captures the imagination because it symbolizes hidden value, luck, and the chance that fortune is lying in plain sight. So the 1979 no-mint mark penny is not just a coin, it is a legend, and in exploring its story we learn about the fragile nature of perfection, the unpredictability of machines, the fascination with rarity, and the human desire to own something no one else can. So the next time you see a penny dated 1979, look closer, inspect the lettering, check for doubling, weigh it, examine its edges. Because you may just be holding a piece of history worth far more than you ever imagined. And remember the stories of those who found theirs by accident, who one day discovered that their change held a treasure, because those stories remind us that history, luck, and opportunity sometimes collide in the most unexpected ways, and in the case of the 1979 no-mint mark penny, that collision created one of the most valuable coins the world has ever known, a coin that today commands a staggering $6 million and continues to inspire collectors and dreamers everywhere to never overlook the small things, because sometimes the smallest things hold the biggest fortunes. Next, 1970 61-cent USA coin. This time we are diving deep into the world of the 1970 61-cent coin, a Lincoln penny that looks like the countless others you may have spent, dropped, or ignored over the years, yet because of rare minting errors, mechanical mistakes, and unique production anomalies, this tiny copper coin has been valued at a staggering $3 million, which is a fortune far beyond what most people could ever imagine from something as small as a penny. So as always, we welcome you with excitement and curiosity, because if you stay with us throughout this incredible journey, you will discover the history, the minting context, the types of mistakes that can create such value, the real reasons why collectors chase these coins so fiercely, and the fascinating possibilities that surround the 1970 60 penny, which remains one of the most talked about and sought after era coins in American numismatic history. So let's begin with the basics. The year 1976 was one of immense national pride in the United States, because it marked the bicentennial celebration of American independence, and while the penny itself did not receive a special bicentennial design like the quarter, half dollar, and dollar, it was still being struck in large numbers at the Denver Mint with the familiar Lincoln obverse and the Lincoln Memorial reverse. But even in such a symbolic year when minting standards were expected to be at their peak, the reality of mass production meant that errors still occurred, and in fact, some of the most dramatic and valuable pennies came from this period. Now let's look at why the 1970 60 penny is so important. When billions of coins are struck every year, the minting process relies on massive machines, powerful dies, and countless planchets, and all of this equipment is under extreme stress, and when even the slightest problem happens, such as a misfeed, a damaged die, or a misalignment, the resulting coins carry unique flaws that transform them from common pocket change into one-of-a-kind rarities. And for the 1970 60 penny, some of the most fascinating errors include double strikes, where the coin is hit twice by the die in slightly different positions, leaving overlapping images that give Lincoln's face, the date, or the lettering a ghost-like doubled appearance. Another common but highly desirable error from this year is the off-center strike, where the blank planchet was not seated properly, and therefore only part of the design is struck, leaving large blank areas on the coin. And the more off-center the strike, the rarer and more valuable it becomes, especially if the full date and mint mark remain visible. And then there are clipped planchets, which occur when the blank disc of metal is cut incorrectly and a crescent-shaped portion is missing, leaving a distinctive clipped edge that collectors recognize instantly. But perhaps the most mysterious and valuable of all the 1970 60 pennies are those struck on the wrong planchets, known as off-metal or transitional errors, which can happen if a blank meant for another denomination, such as a dime or foreign coin, is accidentally fed into the press. The result is a coin that has the design of a penny but the weight and size of another coin, and these transitional errors are so rare that each one is essentially unique, making them worth enormous sums of money. And in some cases, these off-metal errors from 1976 have sold for hundreds of thousands of dollars, pushing the total estimated value of certain examples to as high as $3 million when factoring in condition, rarity, and demand. Another factor that makes the 1970 60 penny so valuable is the presence of die cracks and cuds, which are caused when the steel dies used to strike the coins begin to wear out or break, leaving raised lines, blobs, or missing details on the finished coins. And while minor die cracks are fairly common, large dramatic cracks or cuds that affect key parts of the design are rare and highly collectible, further fueling the value of these pennies. Now imagine the thrill of discovering such a coin in your own collection or in a forgotten jar of change, realizing that the penny you thought was worth 1 cent could actually be worth $3 million. It is the kind of discovery that changes lives. And this is what makes the hunt so exciting, because these coins are not locked away in museums. They are out there in the hands of ordinary people who may not even realize what they have. And when these coins surface at auctions, the bidding wars can be fierce, collectors with deep pockets fighting to own a piece of numismatic history, and the prices skyrocket as each one-of-a-kind coin becomes the ultimate prize. But beyond the numbers and the sales figures, what makes the 1970-60 penny truly special is its connection to history, because it comes from the bicentennial year. A time of great pride and celebration in the United States, and owning such a coin is not just about having an error, it is about holding a piece of the nation's story, combined with the imperfections that make it unique, creating a blend of history, rarity, and symbolism that collectors cannot resist. And this is why the value is so high. Because it is not just about copper or metal, it is about meaning, rarity, and the human desire to own something no one else can. So let's break down the possibilities again. A 1970-60 penny with a dramatic off-center strike showing more than 50% blank area and still displaying the full date could easily fetch tens of thousands of dollars. A double-struck penny with clear overlapping images of Lincoln could go even higher. A clipped planchet combined with strong detail might reach 6 figures. But the true treasures, the off-metal strikes or unique transitional errors, those are the ones that can command millions. And when collectors and investors compete for them, the prices can soar to the unbelievable level of $3 million. And the most amazing part is that they can be hiding in plain sight, because they were released into circulation along with ordinary pennies, which means they could still be found today. So if you ever come across a 1970-60 penny, take a moment to look closer, inspect the edges, the weight, the details of Lincoln's bust and the lettering, because you never know when one of those life-changing rarities might be sitting right in your hand. And this is why coin collecting is so thrilling, because it combines history, luck, and the joy of discovery, reminding us that sometimes the smallest objects can carry the biggest fortunes. So the story of the 1970-60 penny is not just about a coin, it is about possibility, about the chance that fortune is waiting to be discovered in the everyday, and about the way history and era combine to create legends. And as we wrap up this journey into the world of the 1970-60 penny, remember that the next time you see a coin from this year, don't dismiss it as ordinary. Because hidden within the countless billions are the rare survivors, the anomalies, the treasures worth $3 million, and they are just waiting to be found by someone with the patience and the curiosity to look a little closer. So keep searching, keep learning, and keep your eyes open, because you never know when the next extraordinary discovery will be yours. Next, 1982 1-cent USA coin store. Today we bring you yet another jaw-dropping story from the fascinating world of American coins. A story that proves once more that even the smallest details and mistakes can lead to life-changing fortunes. And this time we are focusing on the legendary 1982 no-mint mark USA 1-cent coin. A Lincoln penny that has stunned the numismatic community by being valued as high as $4 million. Yes, you heard that right, a coin that was supposed to be worth just a single cent has become a multi-million-dollar artifact because of its unique errors, its transitional mystery, and the sheer rarity of surviving examples. So let us welcome you to this incredible journey where we will explore everything from the historical background of 1982, the massive transition in penny composition, the role of mint marks, the mistakes that slipped through the system, and the way collectors attach astronomical value to these rare survivors. And before we dive into the errors themselves, it is important to understand why 1982 was such a monumental year in the history of the Lincoln cent. For decades leading up to this point, pennies had been made primarily of copper, but by the late 1970s and early 1980s the rising cost of copper meant that the intrinsic value of the metal inside each coin was approaching, or even exceeding the face value of the coin itself. And so the U.S. Mint made the critical decision in 1982 to change the composition of the cent from 95% copper to a copper-plated zinc core, which was a huge change in the world of coinage, because not only did it alter the weight of the coin, but it also meant that two different compositions of pennies were produced during the same year. So in 1982, collectors can find copper cents weighing 3.11 grams and zinc cents weighing 2.5 grams. And to make matters even more complicated, the mint produced multiple varieties of dies that year, some with large dates and some with small dates, and each variety could appear in copper or zinc, with or without mint marks, which means that 1982 is perhaps the single most complex year in the entire Lincoln cent series, and out of this confusion and complexity arose one of the most valuable rarities ever known, the 1982 no mint mark penny. Now normally Philadelphia minted coins carry no mint mark. But there are varieties of 1982 cents from Philadelphia that were struck in error with details that do not match their intended planchets or dies. For example, some of the no mint mark 1982 pennies were struck with copper planchets when they were supposed to be zinc, others with zinc when they were supposed to be copper, and to make things even more dramatic, some of these coins exist in the small date variety, which is incredibly scarce in copper composition without a mint mark, so scarce in fact that only a tiny handful have ever been confirmed, making them virtually priceless. Because collectors understand that when only a few examples exist in the entire world, demand will push the value into the millions, and that is exactly why a 1982 no mint mark penny can be worth $4 million. Now let's talk about the kinds of errors that make these coins so desirable. One of the most famous errors tied to 1982 is the transitional error, which occurs when a coin is struck using the wrong planchet type. For example, a small date design intended for zinc struck on a leftover copper planchet. These transitional pieces are so rare because they represent a fleeting moment of history when the mint was changing its production standards and a few mistakes inevitably slipped through, and each of these mistakes creates a unique artifact that tells the story of that transition. And in addition to transitional errors, there are also double die errors from 1982, where the lettering in Liberty, Indiana God We Trust, or the numbers in the date appear doubled because of a misalignment during die preparation. These doubling errors are not only visually striking, but also serve as proof of the minting chaos of that year. And when such an error is combined with the rarity of the no mint mark small date copper variety, the result is a coin worth millions. Collectors have also reported off-center strikes, broad strikes, and even die cracks in 1982 no mint mark cents, all of which add drama and uniqueness to the coin, further fueling collector excitement. But beyond the mechanical details, the true driver of value here is scarcity, because while billions of pennies were minted in 1982, only a handful of the transitional no mint mark copper small date varieties are known to exist, making them rarer than diamonds in the world of numismatics. And when something is that rare, wealthy collectors with deep pockets are willing to pay whatever it takes to own it, pushing the value into the multi-million-dollar range. And we must also consider the psychology of collectors. Because owning such a coin is not just about money, it is about prestige, history, and bragging rights. To be the person who possesses one of the rarest coins in American history is to hold a piece of history that no one else can claim, and that drives the competitive spirit that fuels million-dollar auctions. Imagine the scene at an auction house, the tension rising as bids climb from thousands to hundreds of thousands to millions, each collector desperate to win the prize, until finally the hammer falls at $4 million, cementing the legend of the 1982 no mint mark penny and making headlines around the world. And what makes this story even more fascinating is that these coins are not locked away in museums. They were released into circulation just like ordinary pennies, which means they could still be out there today hiding in jars of change, old collections, or bank rolls, waiting to be discovered by someone sharp-eyed enough to recognize what they have. And that possibility is what excites collectors and ordinary people alike, because the idea that you could find a coin worth $4 million in your own home is thrilling. It is a reminder that history, luck, and fortune sometimes collide in the most unexpected ways. So what should you look for if you want to find one? First, check the weight of your 1982 pennies, because the copper ones will weigh about 3.11 grams while the zinc ones weigh about 2.5 grams. Then look closely at the date to see whether it is the small date or large date variety. And if you happen to have a small date copper cent with no mint mark, you may very well be holding one of the rarest coins in American history, worth millions. Also examine your coins for signs of doubling, off-center strikes, or other unusual features, because any of these could add even more value, and always remember that condition matters. Coins in uncirculated or near perfect condition are worth far more than worn examples. And that is why collectors go crazy for pristine specimens. Now let us step back and think about why this story resonates so much. It is not just about the mechanics of minting or the rarity of a particular coin, it is about the symbolism of hidden value, the idea that something so small and overlooked could carry a fortune, that a single penny could be the difference between ordinary life and unimaginable wealth. And that is why stories of the 1982 no-mint mark penny continue to captivate people around the world. Because it reminds us that luck can strike in the most unexpected places, and that is what makes coin collecting one of the most thrilling hobbies and investments in the world. So as you go through your change, remember to keep an eye out for 1982 pennies, weigh them, examine them, and treasure them, because you never know when you might stumble across that one extraordinary piece, the 1-cent coin that could be worth $4 million, a coin that carries not just metal but history, error, and legend. A coin that has become one of the most valuable and mysterious in the entire Lincoln series, and a coin that continues to inspire collectors and dreamers everywhere to look a little closer at the everyday objects around them, because sometimes those objects turn out to be priceless treasures hiding in plain sight.